Good morning, and welcome to the 445 Productive Through Joy show with your host and your boy, Dr. Michael Datcher. The show airs each weekday morning, hella early AF at 4:45 a.m. here on YouTube's Michael Datcher channel, then at 4:45 p.m. on Facebook Live. Today, guys, we're talking about self-reliance, which is a term that has been really politicized, as you'll hear in a second, but at its core, it's super important. So, thanks for being with us. If you are new, you can go to productivethroughjoy.com to see about us. We speak to groups, schools, and organizations about being productive through joy. We have a really powerful series of workshops, seminars, webinars, all designed to help you be all that you can be. So thanks for joining us. Allow me to say a few words about myself. For those of you who are new, most people watch the show in reruns, but and not live with us here. But allow me to say a few words about myself. This is your host and your boy, Dr. Michael Datcher, author of the New York Times bestseller Raising Fences, author of the acclaimed historical novel Americas, author of the Pulitzer Prize nominated animating Black and Brown Liberation, a theory of American literature. I'm the board president of a great nonprofit here in Los Angeles called The World Stage. My educational background is UC Berkeley as an undergrad, my master's from UCLA, and my PhD is in English literature from the University of California at Riverside. Guys, I'm an expert at being productive, right? I don't say that to brag or boast. I say it because people are oftentimes surprised to hear that level of productivity when they learn about my, as they say, my deep story, my deep background. So I'm the product of a young girl, really, who was assaulted at age 16, and as a result of that assault, gave birth to me at age 17, and subsequently gave me up for adoption to a single divorcee. So at the time, no biological father, no adopted father. Yo, listen, difficult times for the young MD. Yet it's cool. Modi famously said, "How you like me now?" And if I can be this productive and be so through joy, man, I'm knowing that many people can, in their own way, and on own ways, I guess as well, be productive. Because I know it's not where you're from. It's where you're about to go, and that really inspires this show. So thanks for joining me here. So let's dive into, let me also encourage you to subscribe here and share this video, all right? So let's start. We're talking about self-reliance. And let me first say, just to offer some real context. So on the far right, a part of the critique of people of color, African-American people, anyone whose father could loan them $1 million is that, the working poor or folks who they call who they would say allegedly are are disenfranchised, are not disenfranchised, but claim disenfranchisement, well, it's because they're not self-reliant or because they're lazy. That's been the discourse around people of color, without or also this idea of this colorblind notion, which it flattens difference, and of course difference is important, but also erases the idea that the system uh, is not balanced. So you say, oh, everyone should just rely upon themselves. I don't see color. So the system is colorblind. Well, that's obviously not what's happening, obviously, in the world. And it is only lately, because of cell phones, we've been able to document what people have been saying literally for generations about just how unbalanced things are, for example, in relation with the police. But, so if schools are different, if certain schools in poor neighborhoods don't even offer the same number of AP courses, right? So if you know high school advanced placement courses, you get basically 5 credit points for an A versus 4. So you're able to have a GPA beyond 4.0. You can be, I think, 4.85, something like that, at least in California. But what if your school doesn't offer AP courses, it offers only one? And you can only get a 4.12 if that's your as a maximum high score, versus a person at a school who has the full complement of options can get a 4.85. So the point is that literally, literally, um, the system is unequal. And so when people say, well, I did it on my own work, and not to minimize anyone's work, because basically, in my experience, life is pretty hard for everyone. But we have to also acknowledge that there are certain types of systemic and structural barriers to certain people of color, women, folks who are not white and male, basically, that give, for example, white males incredible benefit. And again, that does not minimize hardworking white males. It's challenging for them as well. Like, life is challenging, right? But we have to also acknowledge the inequities. So I wanted to give that brief context on this piece about self-reliance. So on the right, the critics, the commentariat will say, well, you just got to be more of a self-reliant. Okay, so we hear that critique. So I wanted to give that context to say that first, and then to make this important point. They are right that we still need to be self-reliant, right? Because whether the system is rigged or not, and it is against us, obviously, we have to still keep on keeping on, and that's going to require a certain type of self-reliance. So, point two, then, is self-reliance is not just, oh, I'm going to go it alone. Self-reliance is understanding that tied to yourself, also inside of yourself, you have resources that are not necessarily you. So I would, it's best seen through examples. So in many traditions, including the tradition that I am most closely aligned with, the Kemetic or ancient Egyptian tradition, they believe that God is everywhere, including inside yourself. So their spiritual practice, spiritual approach is, spiritual philosophy is to know the God inside of yourself. And that is a source of power. Although the Greeks, of course, history is crazy, have been credited with that. They call it the Delphi maxim. I think that's what they stole in turn. But obviously, the Egyptians' culture predates the Greeks by literally 4,000 years. I mean, that's a long time when you think about how old America is. And so that is a thing to actually contemplate. So what do you do in the context of accessing resources that are not particularly tethered to you, but tied to other aspects of you? Also, of course, our social relations, and also the relations of those who may have access to resources that we could take advantage of. So, which is point two. Then point three is all about placing it all together, right? It's being self-reliant is not just going it alone. It's understanding the access to the power you have inside yourself and the power of your relationships. And through all of that, leveraging all those things to then do your part, because you still got to do your part. It does take a village to raise a child. I really believe in that. It does take there's no I in team. But as Kobe Bryant famously said, there's I in win. And that's, listen, to acknowledge, although the far right puts a terrible twist, just a demonic, the people on the right, as a sidebar, the far right, these people who claim to know God, just the devilishness of them, it's disgusting. But they're very good at framing, but I guess because the devil is the great deceiver, devil in the mythical sense is the great deceiver, they're very good at deceiving. So maybe I shouldn't be surprised, but they are just diabolical. Evidenced by the cat, their leader in the White House. It's really disgusting, actually. But I don't want to get too far afield from the topic at hand, which goes right into that last point, is that you want to leverage all of those particular resources and literally create a winning formula based upon that particular leveraging, bringing those particular skill sets, opportunities, people all together in the direction that you may then place your finishing touch, your varnish, right, on the end of the product. So thanks for being here. That's all we have for today's show. We'll see you this afternoon at 4:45 p.m. Until then, let's talk about it and be about it. Deuces.